family tree.
Hey.
Work hard for my baby, doing it my way to make my way
Y'all know
in
this. This is the Shoot Like a Girl
I'm an
theme song.
outdoor
It's
lover,
available on
like a
iTunes
warrior, shoot
and
like a
any
girl.
So come on.
Karen, you got to repeat that because they couldn't hear you very well. Not the song. Don't repeat the song. Repeat what you
I'm doing
said.
my best. I can here.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. No, I was saying that song's available on iTunes and wherever you get your music. We've got it on everything, and it's like 99 cents. So go download it today and enjoy the Shoot Like a Girl theme song. That version's by Angela Hacker. She won like that country music singers thing one time, and my good friend Tanya Davis and Michael, I can't remember his last name. I'm sorry, Michael. Curtis. I got it. They wrote that song for us several years ago. I think 6 years ago or so. And it's been a great little theme song.
If you've been to the trailer, you've probably heard it because we play it over our video just barely, but it's there so that you can hear it while you're at the gun bar.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to have Suzetta and Chelsey with us. Y'all have been to the trailer. You've met them. They are two of our archery instructors and also very competitive archery participants as well as hunters. And so, girls, welcome.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. We're excited today because we're going to kind of bring this back into the archery world, right? We just started our lives back a couple weeks ago, and archery is really where Shoot Like a Girl started. And so we want to give you a little bit of a taste of what archery safety looks like and how you can get started as well.
That's right. So I'll tell you what, you guys, if you know my story, you know archery actually changed the entire trajectory of my life. It's the whole reason that Shoot Like a Girl was founded, the foundation of it. And I miss it every day. I'm thinking about getting back outside and starting to shoot my bow, especially now because it's something I can do with a wounded foot. So I'm super excited for that, but I have to be safe. So we want to talk about archery safety. So I'll turn it over to Suzetta to start. What is some things that you want to tell people about being safe in archery, and how'd you get started in archery?
Well, getting started in archery, basically I've grown up in the hunting world in some aspect my entire life. I was blessed with being raised on this wonderful property, 100 acres here in Oklahoma. And so we've got, the outdoor world at our fingertips. And so thankfully my family, just if I wanted to do it, we did it. We're fixing to go fishing, actually. We're very outdoorsy people. So I shot guns and bows, play bows until I was an adult. And then I did shoot my first compound bow when I was 18, and just kind of snowballed after that. I shot recurves and the play bows, like I said, until I was an adult. But as far as safety, like I said, I live on a 100-acre farm, so my perspective is a little different from everybody else's. I have to be aware of my farm animals, and now we've got some neighbors across our dirt road, so I have to be aware of where I shoot and where I place my target, and so knowing, where my target is, and then what's beyond that. All of our farm animals, we've got cats. I have to be aware of when I draw back if the cats are out and about, and my dogs and et cetera, and so. Of course, all of my targets are always angled away from where my horses are and the house and et cetera. So that would be one thing that I would say. And like I said, my perspective is a little different because we're out in the country. So
I'm going to come back to you on that because I'm going to turn it over to Chelsey and see how she did. But I have something. So just put this in your head. I know you teach a lot of youth about archery. Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk to you about what you have them do safety. But Chelsey, welcome.
Hello.
How'd you get started in archery, and what are some of your safety things?
So kind of like Suzetta, I grew up with a dad and a brother. They were all outdoors, but I didn't get into archery until I met my husband, because he was a big bow hunter. He still is. So he actually got me involved. So I got my first bow like 12 years ago now. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Like I will pick my bow over a rifle every time because it's just more fun. And I was really lucky with him. He was a really patient teacher because I'm not the easiest person to work with, I guess, sometimes. So I credit my husband to get me involved in it because otherwise I don't think I would be shooting if it wasn't for him. As far as safety, we shoot every night. It's like muscle memory for us, but I always check my arrows when I'm shooting. I always use field tips in the non-hunting seasons. So I'm always checking my field tips before I shoot them to make sure they're tight. And whenever I pull them out of my targets, I'm always checking them again to make sure they're tight. And the same with my nocks. I always check my nock, make sure it's in there tight, and I'm always making sure I hear that little click when I put it on my string to make sure that I'm not accidentally dry firing or, something we don't want happening.
Right. And for those of you that are listening, dry firing, if you're not an archery person, when the arrow travels from the energy that's created from the bow, and when the nock is on the arrow, that energy dissipates through the arrow. If there's no arrow on the string, the energy has nowhere to go, and it will result in a catastrophic bad thing. So sometimes the bow will break apart. Sometimes you're going to get a little injured if you're not careful. So it's super important. That's a great safety tip to always make sure that your nock is on the string. And you'll hear a positive click. Now, Christa, I know you started shooting recently and then had a injury that kept you from it. But what are some of the things about archery that made you want to start shooting?
So right here on the screen, right? You guys are the ones that got me started. I was not an archer and was first exposed to archery in the trailer as a real experience. My husband bow hunted, and I had seen him practice a few times, but it wasn't really a prominent thing for me. And I kind of really honestly ignored it. And as I worked the other stations in the trailer and the archery coaches were behind me, I was like, I want to try that. I want to try that. So I got to try it, and it was the most peaceful but powerful thing I've ever done. And so I do have a bow now. And before my injury 2 years ago, I had just started working with it, and I had to wait after my injury about a year to start back. And I'm back in it. I can tell you that it uses muscles you don't use on a daily basis. And it's interesting to hear about Suzetta's safety tip, because I think I shoot in my yard right out on 100 acres. And we've tried to create a safe direction space, and would love to hear more information on what does that look like. I mean, I've got a bow target, and we've actually put a piece of plywood up behind it, but I don't know if that should be a certain size, or what if my arrow went off the target? Is the plywood enough? Do I need to think something differently?
I think it depends on what level you're shooting at. For me, when we get new bows that we're trying to sight in, or we make adjustments to our bow, that changes. So once it's dialed in, I can move my target into less, areas that might have something behind, that I don't want to hit or whatever. But I do try to set up, what I'm trying to say is I try to set up hunting situations when I get closer into deer season or competition season. So I will set up scenarios that have smaller lanes and etc. But when we first get our bows, set up, it's a totally different environment. And yes, we've put hay bales behind our targets, or we've put another target behind the target, depending on what we have. But it just kind of depends on that, where we're at. And of course, we start out close, and then we come back, we back out to our larger distances.
Oh, Karen, I see you want to say something.
I do. This is don't do what I did. So
it's always good to set the example.
So I'm going to tell you all, this is hilarious. So when we lived in Colorado, we lived on a farm as well, and there wasn't it's out in the plains of Colorado, so there's flat everywhere. It's not like you're gonna have a backstop. So we went and bought archery hay bales, and we stacked hay bales up. So I stacked them 3 across and 3 high, which is pretty good sized target. And then I put my target up, and I'm sighting my bow in, just like Suzetta said. And I released the arrow, and I'm like, where did it go? Like, where is it? So I think that I shot through the hay bale, which happens if you guys got to get thick hay bales. You can't use like straw hay that's to spread around your yard, because it'll just go right through. So I go and I'm looking for my arrow. It's not sticking out the back. So I thought for sure it'd just be sticking out the back of the target, like halfway through, nothing. And I'm looking and I'm like, where did that arrow go? Like, I know I shot it. I don't have it. I start walking down. So, as y'all know, like, your arrow will hit the ground eventually and bury maybe the length of the arrow sometimes into the ground if you miss. And so I literally was walking, looking for my arrow, and I finally found it. And it was in the bumper of my car. Twing!
Oh no.
Shot the bumper of my car. Now, I was careful to make sure there were no human beings behind my target or anything like that. But that it went right through where the bales had been positioned. So there's a little spot that doesn't hit, and it had gone right through that. And yeah, so be careful on that. It's a good idea if the plywood on the back would have prevented that from happening. So it's a good tip. If you're going to set up something in your yard, you can set up some hay bales, but go ahead and put a good piece of plywood behind it so that you have that extra protection, so you don't shoot your car. I mean, like, I traded that car with a little hole in it too. I was like, has it ever been in any wrecks? Nope. It has not been in a wreck.
It's had an incident, but not a wreck.
Hole in it. But that was so funny for me.
So what about some other safety rules? Being in the firearms world, we've got basically an array of firearm safety rules, 3 for some, 4 for others, 5 for others. And really there's 10, 11, 12 firearm safety rules. How do they align? Is it something very similar?
Absolutely. For one, I mean, it depends on your release and et cetera. But the whole keeping your finger off the trigger, until you're getting on your sight, your target, that for sure absolutely aligns. And then of course knowing your target and what's beyond. Then shooting, lining up your sights depending on the style of shooting that you're lining your peep with your scope housing. Come on, Chelsey, jump in. There are a lot.
Your full draw, like, when you're at full draw because the bow finally just stops. That's you can't release your arrow until you're at full draw. So that's very important, like, because you don't want to release it prior, because good stuff doesn't happen.
Right. So it's not that you couldn't release the arrow before full draw. That's that you shouldn't, because it would damage something or it wouldn't go right. Right.
Well, it's just like a gun. You keep your finger off that trigger till you're ready to shoot. The same thing with archery, because what happens is, if you put your finger on that trigger as you're drawing back, that arrow will fly off, and you don't have your bow set, so you could get string slap from your string. So you really want to make sure that you keep your finger behind. When we shoot in the trailer, we're very conscientious of that with our clients, because we're shooting in a 10 box, right? So we want to make sure that arrow is going straight to the target, and the only way to do that is once you're at full draw. So that's a good point. You guys are doing great. So Suzetta, I'm sure that you guys talk to your kids about this, but in Chelsey, I know you shoot at a range and shoot some leagues. So when you're shooting with a whole group of people, which is really, if you go to an archery shop, that's what you're going to be doing. There's a lot of safety tips. One big safety tip is about pulling your arrows. So you'd want to be careful as you go to pull your arrows. A lot of times people go in to pull an arrow and they'll stick another arrow in their eye. So you want to start out pulling your arrows so that you're working your way down from eye level, not up from eye level. So you want to pull those arrows that are at your eye level first, and then get down to the bottom so that as you reach in, you don't accidentally stab yourself in the eye with an arrow. And make sure that you grab those arrows at the base closest to the target and pull them that way. Don't pull them from the end of the nock, because you'll damage your arrows.
One thing that with the youth, and then as well as like we're blessed with a couple indoor archery ranges here in our area. And one thing that we do try to tell the youth and anybody that's starting out with that is basically you don't want to pull straight forward. What we'll do is turn our bodies and kind of align them with the target. So for our NASP kids, they put their hip into the target and eyes forward, eyes on the nocks when they pull. And the reason being is because they want to control that nock so that they don't, hit somebody else. And then, lining that shoulder up with the indoor archery, because they're usually taller targets. That way your face, because it's either you or your partner that's shooting with you on the lane, you want to basically align like that and not straightforward.
And to kind of piggyback off that, like when you're shooting with a group of people, it's kind of like range is hot. You have to make sure everybody's done shooting and that you all go, down the field or down the lanes. You're shooting at the same time, because accidents happen and you don't want that either.
Right. Range commanders, they basically probably cross over from a firearms range to an archery range, whether it's a bullet or an arrow. It's still a controlled environment.
Yeah.
For outdoor 3D, we have typically, if you've ever shot an outdoor 3D shoot, it's just multiple lanes, and especially at the national shoots, there's thousands of shooters there, and so you check to the right and the left of you and make sure you're all clear. That's kind of our thing, all clear. And when we all get this, thumbs up, then all three of us can approach. As everybody else's lanes are clear around them, but you want to make sure that the two lanes beside you are clear before you approach your target.
We've been having a great conversation. We're already almost at 20 minutes, and we try to hold these around that time period. Can we talk a little bit about maintenance? I mean, with a firearm, right? I clean my gun. I make sure it's in working order, that there's no issues or concerns. What about with a bow and even with an arrow?
Kind of like I said earlier, with your arrows, always checking the nock, always checking the tip, make sure they're tight. Checking your fletchings, making sure that the fletchings are glued down and attached. None of them are visibly, torn or damaged, bent, funny, any of that.
However, if you do have a tear in your fletching, a trick, y'all, this is a tip. You can cut it out into a straight V and continue to use that fletching if you're in a tournament until you get back to your range to replace it. So you can use that arrow after it's torn, but you need to make sure you make a smooth cut or your arrow will fly funky.
Good tip. As far as bow maintenance, I do a couple different things. Whether I'm on the 3D range or hunting, when I grab my bow, because usually I do leave them set up, in my bag or wherever we store them. And one of the things when I pick them up is I'll tap the bottom cam. And what I'm tapping for is seeing if I hear anything or feel anything that's loose on there. And once you've done it several times, you can kind of get an ear for it or feel for it, and kind of grasp whether it's your stabilizer, your sight, or whatever. But I would say always make sure that everything is tightened down really well. I have cat issues. Their brother and sister.
Suzetta, that's a good point. It when your bow has something loose, it sounds like a tuning fork, y'all. It's not good.
Mm-hmm. And then we do wax our strings quite often. You'll see my little students. There's a toolkit that they get to use, and they'll get out there waxing their strings. Probably too much, but I'd rather them do it too much than not enough. And that one's an easy one. You do what I tell people is the string. It'll go up to you're serving, and that when you get to the serving and et cetera, it feels like a zipper. And so we don't wax that part. We wax the actual string. so the kids, that's what I teach them, to fill the string. And when it gets to the zipper filling part, the real tight spun, we don't wax that. And so you just wax all around your string and cable based on that fill.
So as we're going, I want to make sure people go ahead and comment in the comment section if you have a tip, a maintenance tip, or a safety tip for archery. We forgot to say that. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button. If you see us on Facebook or Instagram, follow us, please.
And tell us if you're watching us on the Shoot Like a Girl page or on the Safe Living page, so we can see who's receiving this and how that's going.
Yeah, we're excited for this. This is kind of Safe Living TV, SLGTV. It's a good thing. We're moving into Father's Day this weekend, and I would not be here without the men in my life. I don't know if y'all know this, but my dad, prior to him passing away, designed our logo. And so Shoot Like a Girl was his and my way to connect together. Even though my dad never participated in shooting sports, it wasn't something our family did. But my dad was so proud of the business, and he designed the logo. We can always tell when it's jacked because it's his specific design. So don't steal our logo. But it's always nice to reflect on that. And then I have other great men in my life. My husband right now, Todd. So I broke my foot, y'all. We're going to do some announcements later, but you all are getting a little sneak preview of that I broke my foot. And I can't put any weight on it. And my husband has been just tremendous at helping me as I learn to adapt to life on crutches for the next 6 weeks. And so I'm just so thankful for all the men in our lives, in my life particular, but in your lives as well. So you guys want to say anything about the men in your life?
Go ahead, Chelsey.
Go ahead, Chelsey.
Just happy Father's Day to all the men out there. Like if it wasn't for my husband, my girls wouldn't have, I can do what I can, obviously, but he is so involved with them, so patient with them, which is where I severely lack. So it's greatly appreciated that they have him and, many other kids out there having dads willing to tote them along in the outdoors and get them involved, because that's where it starts, is the young age, whether it's mom or dad. It's really cool to see that.
Well said.
Well, I about 275 yards from where we built our house, I went on my first hunting trip with my papa when I was 4 years old. And so, of course, that's extremely special to me. My papa has passed on, but, the legacy that he left and passed on a lot of different levels on this farm, continue. And then, of course, my dad is like the spitting image of my papa, which is, pretty perfect. But so thankful for him. We're fixing to, like I said, leave on a little fishing trip with Daddy and Granny and a couple other members, my husband. We're going to head out, hopefully catch some fish. But then, of course, my husband and I don't have children, but we do have a lot of fur babies. And so I do have the best fur baby daddy out there. He's wonderful with our fur babies.
Right. And that's a great point, Suzetta. You don't have to have a child to be a dad, right? Men are impacting people's lives all over, old and young. And I'm thankful for my dad and my husband, my son, and all those men in my life. So happy Father's Day, happy Man Day, whatever we want to call that, for those that don't have someone they want to claim as a father, but you've impacted so many people in your lives. All right, ladies, I have to ask one quick question before we close out for today. How would someone, after talking to us, because we know we're so influential, right? How would they get started in archery if this is something they think, I want to do?
I'm extremely passionate about one thing with archery in particular, and that's eye dominance. And so that would be because that was a struggle for me. And I have a whole story on that. So I really preach, finding your eye dominance and what's comfortable for you to shoot. And so going to your Bass Pro or your local bow shop to figure that out and have them help you get your eye dominance if you don't have somebody that can help you. And then shooting as many bows as you possibly can to get the feel. And after somebody has learned how to shoot, I tell them to close your eyes, draw back on a blind belt and really feel the bow all through that shot process. Of course, that blind belt shooting needs to be in an extremely restricted area. But if the best that you can feel that bow, it's gonna give you the best option.
Yep, 100%. It's not one size fits all kind of thing. It's kind of like when you're getting a firearm, you want to hold them, feel them, hold as many as you can, because everything's going to feel different. It's going to shoot different, and it's going to fit in your hand differently. So you're investing a decent amount of money into the sport. So you want to be happy with what you get.
I tell people all the time in the trailer, it's depending on if it's male or female, but building your bow is like building your makeup bag. And not everybody's makeup bag is going to be the same by no means. Some people have to put more emphasis on the foundation, where others need more with their eye care. And then, the colors, of course, we all have our different color choices, and there's a lot of options out there. So build your bow, based on your budget, go in with the budget and tell the bow tech that, this is what I'm working with. And then you can kind of mix and match all that you need from that point.
Thank y'all so much. So if you're interested and you're not sure where to start and you're near Rossford, Ohio in the next couple of weeks, the Shoot Like a Girl trailer will be in Rossford June 24th and 25th. I think I have those dates right. It's a Saturday and a Sunday.
It is.
We would love to have you guys come by. Check out our schedule. We've got another 12 stops for the remainder of the year that you currently at the currently, right? That could change. Always growing. There's more days in the year. And if you can't find your local Bass Pro or Bass Pro Cabela's, and if you don't have one in your area, check out a local bow shop and take those first steps to get involved in this new sport for you, archery.
Right. And don't forget, we'll post in the link some web articles you can read from Shoot Like a Girl on where to get started and how to select your bow and those kind of things to take into consideration. But the most important thing is get out there and do it. So one of the greatest joys that I have is when Ben, my grandson, comes to visit and we go outside and we spend an hour outside with our bows. So it's something that your entire family can do together and have fun. And even if you have a physical limitation, you can still get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. Y'all, it's great seeing you. I'm so excited to do this Facebook Live and record it. Christa and I will monitor the comments a little bit later. So y'all, please comment, tell us what you think, and enjoy this next weekend. Happy Father's Day to everybody. And
thank you, Chelsey.
And download our song.
Shook up the family tree.